There is a shape at the top of Saturn that normally should not exist. The shape is like a hexagon, 6 perfectly straight sides spinning together wide enough to swallow 3 Earths. When scientists first found it, they had no explanation. It looked mysterious, bizarre, and profoundly weird. However, after decades of continuous observation, planetary experts realized that this mysterious 6-sided storm was the least frightening thing about the planet. Underneath that same golden glow sits a world that rips moons apart, drowns in its own icy rain, and throws lightning 10,000 times stronger than anything on Earth. But hang on, isn't Saturn supposed to be the pretty one? The gentle, golden-ringed giant? How is the most photogenic planet in the solar system also the most violent? Stick around as we uncover the storms, the crimes, and the quiet horrors behind Saturn's rings, and find out why Saturn is the scariest planet of all. Let's start with the basics. Saturn is a giant ball of hydrogen and helium, almost 95 times heavier than Earth, with no solid surface. If you try to land on it, you would realize there's nothing to land on. You will just keep falling, deeper and deeper, until the pressure crushes you long before you reached anything close to a core. Despite being enormous, Saturn is surprisingly light for its size. Its average density is actually lower than water. Find an ocean big enough to hold it, and the whole planet would float on the surface. A giant, violent, floating pool toy that would still crush you instantly. Fun. The planet spins fast, and a day lasts about 10.5 hours. That speed physically deforms Saturn, bulging at the equator and flattening at the poles, like a stress ball somebody's been squeezing for 4 billion years. Scientists call this oblate. So sad, Saturn cannot even hold its own shape together. For decades, researchers could not even agree on exactly how fast that spin was, because Saturn's magnetic field lines up almost perfectly with its rotation axis, hiding the usual radio signals scientists use to measure a planet's day. It took a clever workaround in 2019, using tiny, gravity-driven ripples in the rings themselves, like a giant seismograph, to finally nail the number down. Deep inside, crushing pressure squeezes hydrogen into a strange metallic state that conducts electricity, powering a magnetic field strong enough to trap radiation in invisible loops. This is a world that can't sit still and generates violence just by existing. That magnetic field doesn't just sit there quietly either. It traps swarms of charged particles in invisible radiation belts strong enough to fry unprotected electronics, and it powers shimmering ultraviolet auroras at both poles, curtains of light that human eyes cannot see, but Hubble and Cassini captured in vivid detail. Saturn is essentially glowing with energy it has no polite way to release. Welcome to Cosmic Chronicles. We have noticed that 91% of you that watch this channel frequently do not subscribe. If you've ever enjoyed my video, please could you do me a favor and hit the subscribe button? It helps this channel more than you know, and the bigger the channel gets, the more valuable content you enjoy. From Earth, the rings look like a smooth golden halo. Peaceful. Nothing about them looks dangerous. But that's just an illusion. Up close, they're billions of chunks of ice and rock, from dust grains to pieces the size of a house, orbiting at roughly 70,000 kilometers per hour and constantly smashing into each other. The whole system stretches nearly 280,000 kilometers wide, wider than the gap between Earth and the Moon, yet in places it's barely 10 meters thick. Imagine a blizzard of ice razors spread across a distance that could swallow dozens of planets, flattened down to the height of a 2-story house. So where did all this ice come from? Long ago, an icy moon or comet drifted too close and crossed the Roche limit, the point where a planet's gravity beats an object's own gravity. Some models suggest the doomed object could have been almost as large as Titan, an entire moon-sized world reduced to a haze of ice in a matter of hours. Saturn ripped it apart. Those elegant rings may just be the shredded evidence, still orbiting the crime scene billions of years later. Even the shape of the rings carries scars from a neighborhood bully. A dark gap called the Cassini division, nearly 4,700 kilometers wide, splits the rings almost in two. It exists because the small moon Mimas keeps tugging on any ice trying to orbit there, clearing out a lane through sheer gravitational pestering. And every so often, ghostly dark streaks called spokes flicker across the rings, rising and fading within a matter of hours. Scientists still are not entirely sure what causes them, though many suspect Saturn's own static electricity is lifting fine dust just off the surface of the ice. And the evidence is vanishing. NASA calls it ring rain. Charged ice particles get dragged into Saturn's atmosphere along magnetic field lines, and it happens fast. Enough water drains from the rings every 30 minutes to fill an Olympic swimming pool. At that rate, some estimates give the rings under a few 100 million years left. That number briefly convinced scientists the rings must be young, cosmically speaking. But newer research on how micrometeorites constantly rough up and recycle the ice suggests they could be much older, and that young rings idea is now under real debate. So we're not even sure how old this crime scene is, only that the clock is ticking either way. Enjoy the jewelry while it lasts. Now let's talk about the hexagon. It's a real jet stream locked into a geometric shape nobody's fully explained, with winds around 320 kilometers per hour. It could swallow close to 4 Earths, and its walls may plunge over 100 kilometers deep. At its center sits a glowing red vortex that's been spinning since at least the Voyager flybys of the early 1980s. It has outlived entire human generations without so much as blinking. Every 30 Earth years or so, Saturn throws an even bigger tantrum, the Great White Spot, a storm big enough to wrap around the whole planet. It drags ammonia ice up from deep inside, briefly turning the golden giant pale, and it comes packing lightning up to 10,000 times stronger than anything on Earth. So next time your weather app says, severe thunderstorm, just remember, it could be worse if you lived on Saturn. Even the color of Saturn's storms keeps shifting. Cassini watched the hexagon fade from a cool blue to a hazy gold over just a few years, likely as sunlight finally returned to the North Pole after a long Saturnian winter and cooked up more smog in the upper atmosphere. A storm on Saturn can change its color. It just never seems to change its shape. Saturn currently has 274 officially confirmed moons, more than any other planet, and astronomers keep finding new ones, like loose change in a couch cushion. Most are tiny, irregular chunks, likely fragments of a larger moon smashed apart in the last 100 million years. This system might still be an active debris field. Some of the newest ones are barely a few kilometers across, spotted only by combining years of images and tracking faint points of light as they drift against the background stars. 2 moons stand out. Titan, the largest, has a thick nitrogen atmosphere denser than Earth's, plus rivers, lakes, and rain. For a second, it looks like home. Don't be fooled. The rain is liquid methane and ethane, essentially natural gas falling from the sky in slow motion, at around minus 179 degrees Celsius. Its towering dunes are made of dark hydrocarbon grains instead of sand, and its largest sea, Kraken Mare, holds more liquid hydrocarbons than all of Earth's oil and gas reserves combined. It's Earth's evil twin who skipped the family reunion and moved somewhere much colder. NASA is curious enough to send a nuclear-powered drone called Dragonfly there, launching in 2028 and arriving in 2034 to study Titan's chemistry. Then there's Enceladus, a small, bright snowball with tiger-stripe fractures at its south pole that shoot geysers of water vapor hundreds of kilometers into space. Underneath sits a hidden ocean, kept liquid by Saturn's gravitational squeeze. In 2023, scientists confirmed that ocean contains phosphorus, a key ingredient for DNA, in concentrations over 100 times higher than Earth's oceans. That makes Enceladus the only confirmed ocean beyond Earth known to have all 6 elements considered essential for life. Somewhere down there, in total darkness, something might actually be swimming. Then there is Mimas, the moon that looks the deadest of them all. A single crater called Herschel stretches across a third of its face, the scar of an impact so violent it nearly shattered the entire moon. The resemblance to a certain fictional space station is so strong that NASA itself refers to Mimas as the Death Star moon. For decades, scientists used Mimas as the textbook example of a boring, frozen moon. Solid ice straight through. No ocean, no activity, nothing hiding underneath. Then, in 2024, researchers combing through years of Cassini data noticed something odd in the way Mimas wobbled along its orbit. That wobble only made sense if a liquid ocean, making up more than half the moon's volume, was sloshing around beneath 20 to 30 kilometers of ice. Even stranger, that ocean appears to be barely 5 to 15 million years old, practically a newborn by solar system standards. A moon that looks like a dead, cratered ruin may be quietly cooking up the conditions for life directly under scientists' noses, without ever letting so much as a crack show on the surface. We know most of this because of one spacecraft, Cassini. By 2017, after 13 years at Saturn, it was almost out of fuel. To avoid any risk of accidentally contaminating a moon like Enceladus, NASA made a hard call and steered Cassini straight into Saturn. To gather its best data first, Cassini spent its final months threading a 2,000-kilometer gap between Saturn and its innermost rings, a maneuver no spacecraft had ever attempted before. Engineers had no guarantee it would survive even one pass through that gap, let alone the 22 it completed before the final plunge. On its final dive, the spacecraft kept its antenna pointed at Earth, transmitting data for as long as it physically could, while Saturn's atmosphere tore it apart and vaporized it. It went out reporting for duty. If any robot ever deserved a statue, it's this one. There's an old story that fits a little too well. In Greek and Roman mythology, Saturn, known as Cronus to the Greeks, was warned that one of his children would overthrow him. So he swallowed each one at birth, trying to erase the future before it happened. Look back at those rings, a shattered moon still orbiting the planet that destroyed it, slowly being pulled back in and consumed. A father eating what came before him. Ancient skywatchers had no telescopes, and they still landed on a myth that matches the science unnervingly well. Some historians even point out that Saturn's unusually slow, heavy crawl across the night sky, compared to the faster planets, is likely exactly why ancient cultures pinned such a grim, devouring story onto it in the first place. Saturn is not the peaceful ornament it looks like from your backyard. It can't hold its own shape. Its crown is the wreckage of a dead moon. Its calm face hides lightning 10,000 times stronger than ours. And its beauty is quietly draining away, one Olympic pool at a time. We just happen to be alive during the brief window when it still looks this good. Thank you for watching.